The night was colder than usual, and Daniel Harper pulled his worn jacket tighter around himself as he exited the small diner. His daughter, Lily, would already be asleep by now, hugging the stuffed bear he depatched 3 times. Daniel wasn't just another IT guy. He was a father, one who had lost his wife 3 years ago and now lived every day making sure his little girl didn't feel the weight of the world he carried. But earlier that week, his world had been shaken. He'd been called into the sleek, glass-walled office of Richard Caldwell, the CEO of Caldwell Enterprises. The man didn't even look up when he told Daniel, "You've been with us a long time. But we're restructuring. Effective immediately, your position is terminated." Daniel swallowed hard. "Sir, I have a daughter. Please." Richard waved his hand. "I'm sorry, Harper. It's not personal. Just business." Daniel walked out of that office with a box of his belongings, his pride shredded. But he didn't curse Richard. He didn't raise his voice. Because he knew something Richard didn't. Life had a way of flipping the script when you least expected it. The encounter. 2 nights later, Daniel was heading home from a late side job fixing computers in a rundown part of town. That's when he heard it shouts echoing from an alley. He stopped. Instinct told him to keep walking. But then he heard the unmistakable sound of someone begging. "Please, don't hurt me. I'll pay you." Daniel froze. That voice, he knew it. Cautiously, he stepped into the shadows of the alley. And there, surrounded by 3 men in leather jackets, stood Richard Caldwell. The CEO's expensive suit was torn, his face pale with fear. One of the men sneered. "You think firing people, cutting jobs, makes you untouchable? Tonight you pay, Caldwell." Richard stammered, I don't have anything on me. Please." The thug shoved him against the wall. Daniel's fists clenched. His heart pounded. He could walk away. Nobody would ever know. After all, this was the man who had just taken everything from him. But then, Daniel pictured Lily. He thought about what he taught her every night before bed, that you don't let fear or anger decide who you are. That kindness isn't a weakness. And with that, Daniel stepped forward. The rescue. Wrong father to threaten, gentlemen, Daniel's voice cut through the night like steel. The men turned, laughing. "And who the hell are you supposed to be?" Daniel didn't answer. Years of boxing in his youth had taught him more than just how to throw a punch. It had taught him how to end a fight quickly. The first man lunged. Daniel sidestepped, landing a clean hit to the ribs that dropped him. The second swung a knife, but Daniel caught his wrist, twisting until the blade clattered to the ground. Within moments, 2 were down and the third ran off into the night. Richard stood frozen, breathing hard. His eyes locked on Daniel in disbelief. You saved me," he whispered. Daniel picked up the knife, tossed it into a dumpster, and looked Richard square in the eye. "Guess firing me wasn't the worst decision you made this week." The twist. Richard chuckled nervously, brushing dirt off his suit. For the first time, the arrogant mask was gone. He was just a man shaken, vulnerable, and suddenly aware of the consequences of his decisions. "Daniel, I didn't know," he stammered. "I never thought about the people behind those layoffs. About their families. About people like you." Daniel shrugged. "That's the problem with people at the top. You stop seeing the people who keep the lights on. Silence hung between them until Richard spoke again. His voice wasn't commanding this time, it was almost pleading. Come back. Tomorrow. Not as an employee, but as my head of cybersecurity. We need someone with your skills. Someone I can actually trust. Daniel blinked. He hadn't expected that. Why the sudden change of heart? Richard's answer was simple, raw, because tonight, you proved something I've never had in my boardroom: loyalty that money can't buy. The emotional climax. The next day, Daniel walked into Caldwell Enterprises with Lily's hand in his. She beamed at the tall glass building, unaware that her dad had once been humiliated there. Richard was waiting in the lobby. When Lily shyly hid behind her father, Richard knelt down and offered her a lollipop from his pocket. You must be Lily, he said softly. Your dad's the bravest man I've ever met. For the first time in years, Daniel felt pride not just in his skills, but in the example he was setting for his daughter. He had stood up not out of hatred, but out of humanity. And in doing so, he changed not just his fate, but also the heart of a man who once couldn't see beyond numbers on a spreadsheet. The ending. Weeks later, Daniel's life looked different. His new role gave him stability, respect, and the means to provide Lily with the life she deserved. But more than that, something had shifted at Caldwell Enterprises. Richard began walking the office floors, greeting employees by name, asking about their families. Decisions weren't just business anymore. And every time Richard looked at Daniel, there was a quiet understanding between them, gratitude, respect, and the knowledge that sometimes the person you cast aside is the very one who will save you when it matters most. Because in the end, it wasn't about revenge. It was about humanity. Message: we are not defined by what life takes from us, but by what we choose to give even to those who may not deserve it.